Hey everybody, it's Stephanie Ward of fireflycoaching.com, and today I'm here with Kristin Wilson of travelingwithkristin.com and pokerrefugees.com. Yes, those two are very different things, and she's going to tell us about that, and she's going to share her top marketing strategies for small business owners with us. Welcome, Kristin.
Thanks, Stephanie. Happy to be here.
So tell us what has worked for you in one or both of your businesses as far as getting out there and connecting with clients. What are your top marketing strategies?
So my first online business I started in 2011, and it's called Poker Refugees, as you mentioned, which might sound a little weird to people. I don't even play poker actually, but it is a company, a consulting relocation company that I developed after seeing a need in the market for poker players who were affected by regulation in their home countries. So I think my first marketing tip would be to make sure that as a business owner, you're really clear about what is the problem that you're solving for your target customer. So who is your customer avatar? What are you providing to help them with their issues? And then just getting really niched down on that. So in my case, it was really interesting because I actually don't even have any competitors. I haven't had any for about 7 or 8 years. And it's because my skill set was so well suited to help my customer avatar, and my customer was so well defined, and my service was so specific to them. So that is really the biggest thing. Like, I know there's a lot of tips out there on growing your social media following and growing your personal brand, and we'll talk about that as well, as I've done with Traveling with Kristin. But to be honest, Poker Refugees was profitable from the first week that I launched it. I actually
That's fantastic.
I recouped all of my startup costs, which were like $5,000 in the first month, and made a profit. I think the first month I made like $15,000 or $20,000, and it was not because I had any brand awareness or name recognition or anything, but because I had a really specific service that completely fulfilled a desperate need in my target customer. So to this day, I think my Poker Refugees Instagram has like less than 1,000 followers. I have maybe 1,000 followers on Twitter. And I've been able to create a thriving business with a really small number of clients. I only serve less than 100 people per year. Wow. And so that is my first tip. Just make sure that you're solving a need.
That is so, I'm so happy you said that, because I run into that a lot when I'm talking with people, and I'm like, well, what's the problem you're solving? And then if they have to think about it, then it's not the right thing. But okay, so you did that brilliant tip. How did you actually connect with these clients? So you knew who they were. Where did you find them, or how did you reach out to them? Because it wasn't on Instagram probably. So what was the way that you connected?
Exactly. So I actually created like a strategic partnership with a online poker forum. So I pitched my idea to them, and at first they thought it was crazy, but about a month or so later, they started noticing users of the forum asking questions that were related to my business idea. So I was just going to do it on my own, and I probably would have been less successful. But the owners finally came back around and they said, Kristin, we're seeing people asking questions like, how do I move to a different country? Where can I go to play online poker legally? And we want to help you with this. So they actually built my website into their website. So they already had traffic of like a few 100,000 people per month, like unique users, and they agreed to do the initial press release. So it gave me instant credibility, it gave me instant reach, and it was a really good idea. It was a good idea on my part, but it also, I pitched it in a way that I was like, listen, this is going to be beneficial to you. And they made a lot of money out of it. You know, I gave them a lot of money. I gave them 1% of my earnings. And it was a great partnership. We worked together for years until I kind of went off and did it on my own. and had enough of a track record at that point to be able to keep going. So that was how I launched that brand. And to be honest, I've now had Traveling with Kristin for a year and a half, which is a personal brand that is supposed to be helping more people do what the online poker players did. So online poker players are basically digital nomads.
Mm-hmm.
And once I heard the term digital nomad, I realized that my skill set was extremely appropriate for helping people become remote workers. So I had to make a lot of I had to do a lot of soul searching and make a strategic change and a shift in serving a new market. But I had a couple of problems, which is helping everybody become a remote worker or a digital nomad. You're really helping nobody because it's so general and it's so broad. So I faced the challenge of going from a really specific niche with a really specific strategy and a very specific problem I was solving to how to make noise in a very broad, very general market. And so the strategy that I followed was to create a personal brand and create content around my area of expertise. And so it's been it started as a fun side project, but after about a year and a half into it, I really wish that I would have done what I did before, which is what really worked, by creating a solution to solve a specific problem for my customer avatar. So while I was still, into this day, I still do poker refugees, I wish I had followed my own advice by creating a product or a consulting package or a course or a service and offering it to my target customer again before going through this like year and a half long process of learning how to create content and creating an audience online through writing, through video, through podcasting. And so, yeah, that would be still going back to my number one marketing tip, even though I do have actually I have 3 customer avatars for my current business. I focused on creating my brand before testing my products and services.
That is fascinating. So I just want to go back for a minute to the poker refugees, because that's what I talk a lot about, is creating these, I call them strategic alliance partnerships, where you go and make a partnership with someone who's serving the same clients you are, and they introduce you to their client base, which they did by embedding you in their website, which is brilliant. And then you show them you appreciate that by giving them something back, which you did in a percentage. So that's absolutely like game book, textbook, how it should go, and your proof that it worked and worked really well. So that's amazing. And then I love it that, I mean, even though you're saying that you wish you had done it differently, I think it's maybe, I don't know. I mean, you guys check out her work. She's a brilliant writer. Kristin is a brilliant writer and makes these amazing videos, flying drones. It's spectacular. But now that you've created this brand, now that you're thinking about this, have you created then a product now? Or have you been asking about which problems that you want to try to solve with the product or program?
Yes. Well, what has helped me continue to invest so much time and energy into creating Traveling with Kristin is that I have a really clear why. So what small business owners want to ask themselves is, who are they serving? Why? How are they going to do it? And then comes the who part. So for poker refugees, it was just something that was supposed to be short term. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? Who can help me do it? And that's how I ended up developing the partnership with the Poker Forum. With Traveling with Kristin, I realized that what I wanted to do was create something with more revenue streams, something that was more scalable, something that could reach and impact more people, and a brand that could grow with me as, you know, through different phases of my life and career. So I think that's something that that people can relate to as well, when your business is an extension of your identity and who you are. And so there's the long-term strategy, which is being able to be a thought leader in this industry, having different, having the podcast, being able to be a guest on other people's podcasts, creating video content, helping be a voice in this remote work, location independence movement. But then there's the other part, which is the day-to-day business strategy? How are you monetizing your expertise? And so the way that I've done that is through creating an online course and writing a book and creating info products. So each one is a different strategy. It's helping people in a different way. So when you create a short guidebook, like let's say I've done videos on Amsterdam, I've then created Amsterdam Digital Nomad Guide that is actually being edited right now. So that guide will be linked in the blog articles, in the videos. So anyone who's searching for information on living in Amsterdam can then purchase my guide on living in Amsterdam through the videos that they find or through the content that they find. And then people who want to become digital nomads, they ask me every single day, how do I become a digital nomad? Well, now they can sign up for my course, which is called the Digital Nomad Challenge, which helps people in 4 weeks go through mindset training, how to find remote jobs, how to decide which kind of online business you would want to start, or if you want to be a freelancer and what have you. And then also 1 week dedicated to the travel aspect and the community aspect. So it's, for traveling with Kristin, it's a more long-term vision than Poker Refugees, but it's helping people in different ways. So knowing what people want to know how to make money online, how to get remote jobs, and how to travel. And so my job is to think about how can I create practical products that solve people's needs, and then content to help people find those products.
Okay, so that's with the traveling with Kristin, then you're using not really strategic alliance partnerships, you're using more the content, inbound marketing. It's the big fancy word, inbound marketing, but
right.
To create interesting content that people enjoy, and then they see you as a trusted person, trusted advisor, and they go deeper and they say, oh, what does she have? What else does she have to offer? And they go to your website, and then there they can purchase all of these products and services and programs right from your website.
Yes, I'm still developing that, but right now we just finished the first Digital Nomad Challenge, and my book, Digital Nomad 101, will be available on Amazon, and then the other books and guides and travel guides will be available both through my website and through Amazon. And then instead of doing that specific kind of strategic alliance or partnership, I have done free workshops, keynotes, public speaking. I've been a guest on other people's podcasts that have crossover in my market, and doing things like this even will probably help. But just being a voice in that industry. So today, for example, on my podcast, I have a representative from Tortuga Backpacks who's coming on, and we're talking about the gender wage gap, but also Tortuga Backpacks makes backpacks and luggage for digital nomads. So it's creating like crossover in our industries.
For sure. Well, I always like to lump speaking in, I just make one big category. So that includes podcasts, blog interviews, in-person webinars, workshops, anywhere where you're showing up and sharing your story and sharing information. So I would call that speaking as a strategy. And then also you're an excellent writer, which I already mentioned, and you've got the book too. So strategic alliance partnerships, speaking, and writing, those sound like they're really, and I also throw in for speaking too, which you're great on video. So, but okay, I don't want to overwhelm the audience because you can't do everything. Which of those would you say, and maybe it's hard to pinpoint, but which one of those would you say is the most responsible for driving people to you? Is it the speaking? Is it specifically within the speaking category? Is it videos, or is it in-person talks? Is it podcasts, or is it more of the writing?
I would say for me, it's more of the writing and the video. So the good thing about doing both of those things, like with writing, you can make yourself available in different mediums. So I actually write on medium.com. I post on LinkedIn. I write on my personal blog on my website. And then through that, I've also started getting guest posting opportunities and invites. I'm sure eventually I'm contributing to Medium publications. So the startup, for example, has a readership of 400,000 people. And through that, you can end up writing for Forbes and being a contributor for bigger publications. But I would say, just to start where you are, start creating written content that you think people want to read about, that is based on your own market research, keyword research, and just logic and thinking about the pain points of the people that you want to reach. I also post a lot on Quora. So I answer a lot of questions on Quora, and I link my blogs, my website, and my videos there. And then once you have some data and some analytics, you can see what's working, what are people reading, what are people consuming the most, what are people interacting with the most, and then do more of what works, because you're going to find that 10%, 80-20 or 90-10 rule is going to apply, but you won't know for sure until you start doing it. So it could take some different iterations and trial and error to find out what works for your business. But video is also really helpful, whether it's live video or produced video. And there's a lot of freelancers and solutions now to help you produce video if you don't know how to do it yourself, or just speaking on camera. Like, I've been doing this now for 2 years, and people ask me how do I know how to speak on camera? And it's just from practicing it. And so you'll also find through your video content what people want to watch, what people are interacting with, and then you can create more of that. And that can generate leads while you're sleeping. So one YouTube video could get 100 views, or it could get 100,000 views. And if you get a few videos like that, that's just funneling leads into your business through your target market, because you've created content specifically for the audience that is going to buy your product, or a percent of them.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I mean, you had so many good nuggets in there. Just going back to something that I haven't mentioned, but if you're listening, you've noticed that Kristin has mentioned several times that people ask her questions, and she's listening to what those questions are, and she's paying attention to them. So listen to what people are asking you when they send you emails, when they post on your blog. What kind of questions do they have? And then another thing that I love that you said is just get started. Don't wait till you've got it all figured out. Begin, and you learn by doing. And then finally, one of my most favorite things that nobody likes to do is to actually measure and look at what's working. So analyze the data. And what you said, those words come out of my mouth word for word. Look at what's working and do more of that. It's so simple, but I mean, that's how it goes. If you don't look at what's happening, you can't know what's working or not working. So many brilliant pieces in there. You are a born marketer, I think.
Thank you. Well, it's a skill that can be learned, and I have to constantly remind myself of that too. 2 years ago, I didn't even own a camera. I didn't have a GoPro. I didn't have like a camera to make videos.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, 2 years ago. So now I've created over, I think, 250 videos.
Wow.
And now it's just a normal part of my life. I don't even think twice about it. And you could drag your feet on doing stuff, but this like rule of thumb, you should always start before you feel ready. Because that is the one thing I just wrote in one of the chapters of my book this morning. One of the chapters is on creating a personal brand. Ironically, it was the chapter I was editing today. It's chapter 17 of my book. And I realized that between having the idea to shift into the digital nomad space in 2013, and when I actually took action on it, was 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
I really thought about it, researched, consumed tons of content. Like, I should have just started, as you think back, like, wow, if I would have created an online course in 2013 or 2014, think of how much I would have learned in that time. So I would just recommend to everyone, just start. Don't think that you're too late to the party, because a few years from now, you will have wished that you already started, and you're going to learn so much along the way, and more opportunities will come up that you will have never thought of.
That's wonderful, wonderful advice. I agree with Kristin. You know that if you've been following me for a while. Just begin, don't wait. It will never be perfect. Action is better than no action, and you learn as you go. So I will put links to Kristin's websites below, and you can check out all her videos, her YouTube channel, all of that. Do you have any last words you'd like to share, last tips besides just take action before we wrap up?
I do. I want to say that I was one of the people who didn't like looking at analytics because I thought it was boring or whatever. I force myself to do it now, and just don't take things personally. Be prepared to face the music.
Mm.
I was looking at my Medium stats yesterday, and the articles that I labored over and researched and spent way too much time on, like sometimes an article would take me like 4 days to publish it. It was the one that took me the longest to write has a 17% read ratio. And I learned a lot in researching that article that nobody wanted to read.
Okay.
The ones that I just wrote like stream of consciousness off the top of my head. And I had the idea in the shower or in yoga class, and I typed it into my phone and I wrote it and published it the same day, are at 70% read ratios.
Wow.
So don't overthink things. Just do it. Look at your analytics, be brutally honest with yourself, and do more of what works and take lessons from the things that don't. There are no failures, really.
That is such great advice, and it's not personal. Don't take it personal. For whatever reason, were not interested as much in that piece as they are in the others. And gosh, that's really actually great news, right? It takes you less time, and you get a higher interaction, so it works out in the end.
Yeah.
Excellent,
Yeah, and I've
excellent.
seen other writers echo the same thing. They're like the
Mm.
articles they stressed over were flops, and the ones that they didn't think twice about and they just posted and they didn't think anyone would care went viral.
Yeah, that's another great tip that you cannot know beforehand. You just have to share ideas that you think are valuable. Maybe go with the flow more and not force things. Is the lesson from this example with Medium, but always just to
Oh,
measure, and it can be fun.
I've also noticed through using different software apps to look into things like YouTube, don't compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end.
Mhm.
And I've noticed it's just a numbers game. Like maybe 1% of the people who view your content or consume your content are going to subscribe or follow you. It's like the same ratio, whether you're a small channel or a huge channel. And so I have seen this across other people on YouTube. And it's the same with a conversion rate. Like if you have a 1% conversion rate, if you have an audience of 1 million people or 1,000 people, it's just a numbers game. So just keep going, keep building, and eventually you'll find what works for you.
Super. Thank you so much for all of these tips and links and ideas and words of wisdom. And we'll be checking out your content. And we'd love to hear what you have to say about this. So please leave your questions, your thoughts, your experiences in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.